So I'm starting a channel here that is about showing you what it's like to be a real estate agent day to day. So I feel like it's going to be fitting for me to make a video talking about how you are actually supposed to obtain your real estate license. It's pretty simple. The bulk of it is worrying about taking the tests and the quizzes. But the biggest question that was on my mind when I was looking at getting into real estate is how much is it going to cost me to get my license and start my business? And the good news is that compared to other businesses, it is pretty easy and pretty economically friendly to be able to get into real estate. You're probably looking at $2,500 or less. I got into real estate with $2,400 in my bank account before I even purchased any of my classes. And when all was said and done and I was officially licensed, I still had a couple $100 in my bank account. So $2,500 should be more than enough. It's going to depend on your states and how many classes they need you to buy. It's going to depend on what association you join and what their startup fees are. But it's going to be in that ballpark, most likely. So the first thing you have to do when you want to get into real estate is purchase your classes. So with that, it's going to come with deciding what school you want to go with. There's going to be multiple options. I would just do my research if I was you. I ended up going with Kaplan, who I believe is throughout the country, and then there's going to be like state-specific ones. In my case, it was like Minnesota Real Estate School was another option for me. I just read the reviews, saw what people thought, and to be honest with you, there was some bad reviews about Kaplan. People were saying that that the practice tests and the content that they covered was missing some points that came up on the test, and people were struggling. In my experience, it was totally fine. I had no prior knowledge on real estate, and I went with Kaplan, and I passed my tests the first time on all three tests. So seems okay to me, but you're going to have to make that decision yourself. And you also have to make the decision, do you want to take your classes online or in person? And again, that's going to come down to personal preference and what kind of person you are. I had a part-time job, so I wanted the flexibility to take these classes any time of the day that I wanted in any increment of time that I wanted. So I did online classes, and they had it laid out in different chapters and modules, and I just wanted to knock out a couple of those a day. Like I figured if I can do one chapter a day, that'll be a pretty good pace. I probably went from buying my classes to getting my license in the period of like 2 to 3 months. I really don't have the discipline to sit there for 6 to 8 hours in my room on my laptop knocking out classes by my own discipline. So if I would have done it in person and we were doing the classes and I was forced to do it like 8 hours a day, I probably would have got it done in less than a month. But that's not the path that I chose. I just did online instead. I feel like that was more my style. And another benefit to that is I could go back to any of the modules that I wanted, any section that I wanted, and retake the practice questions and reread anything that I needed to. And they also gave me the option to buy some extra stuff. So they gave me the option to buy some time with like an instructor over an internet, like a Zoom call, or I could join like different study groups once or twice a week. And then the other thing was they offered me like a practice question bank to make my own custom quizzes. The only extra thing that I bought was that practice question bank. And I think that was one of the main things that allowed me to pass my test the first time every time because 2 or 3 days before the quiz, well, like when you finish the section, you have to actually finish the course in your online portal. And if you don't do that, you can't schedule a test. So between finishing the last, little quiz online and scheduling my actual test, I had probably like 4 days to a week to study. So all I would do was just get on that practice question bank and I would just make custom quizzes and figure out what my strong points were and my weak points were. And I would just like hammer practice questions for like a couple hours every day. And that allowed me to keep in practice and not forget what I was doing. I think without that, I probably would have forgot within that week time frame before I took my course, and I might have struggled a little bit more on the test. So definitely would recommend dropping the extra $50 or $75 on those practice questions. Even if you take it in person, having that resource to study at home is going to be super helpful. So everything else is up to you. how many hours of classes you need is going to depend on, again, what state you're in. So for Minnesota, it was a total of 90 hours of classes. Every agent in the country is going to have to take the 30 hours of national courses. That's your first 30 hours, no matter what state that you're in. And then the test that you take after the national portion is like the big test. That one's definitely the most intense. That's the hardest one in my experience. And then if you can pass that one, the other state tests are a little bit more easygoing. So in Minnesota, after the 30 hours of national courses, I had to take two separate sections of 30 hours each, so 60 hours in total of state courses as well, which is dealt with like state-specific Minnesota law and a little bit more minute details of being a real estate agent. But I heard that some states don't even require like a state-specific portion, so it might just be 30 hours only and you're done, depending on where you live. But whatever school you go through should be able to just allow you to buy whatever tests or courses that you need in one big bundle, so that way you're not confused about what you have to buy. And then beyond that, as long as you can pass the tests, then you will apply for your real estate license. They're going to do a background check on you. As long as you haven't killed anybody or took anybody's money, then you will be able to get your real estate license. And the next step is going to be joining a brokerage and then joining whatever your local association is, so you can get access to the MLS. And that kind of is like the next part of like what you have to pay. You got to pay for the quizzes, you got to pay for the tests, or even if you have to retake the test, you got to pay again. But then you got to pay for your startup fees with your association, and then whatever brokerage you join is also going to have fees as well. So they really get you, every step of the way, and it's sort of like that throughout your career as well. It's a pay-to-play game, but it's relatively low cost compared to other industries. So the next video I'm going to make is going to be about how do you make a wise decision when it comes to choosing a brokerage? What kind of support should you expect? What kind of questions can you ask to make a good decision? Because that's going to have a huge impact on how your real estate career gets off to a start, depending on what company you join. You don't want to make a bad choice there. So see you next time.